Guys, it's interesting. If you look, you'll find in the Greek, the term reverence actually is the word phobos, from which we get phobia, the idea of fear. So the idea is, okay, we're supposed to be afraid. Now here's the truth, though. If someone has not got through the process of getting right with God and chooses not to go through the process of getting right with God, the Bible actually does say they should be afraid of God. It actually says that they're enemies of God. So that's very, very true. That's not true for God's kids, the people who choose to get right with God and follow God. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 18, it actually says perfect love casts out fear. And so what we're really talking about, the concept of phobos, the concept of reverence, is the idea of respect. As you look at this, guys, the concept is that we actually, on the one hand, we are in awe of God, reverence. Do you know that the Bible actually tells us, too, that we're supposed to consider God or think of God as Daddy? In the Greek, Abba is Daddy. That's how we're supposed to do it. You know what? We don't have to be afraid of Daddy. I beg to differ. Now, I'm going to take you back a little bit in our family. Stacy should remember this because she was a part of it. Years ago, we, when the kids were relatively little, we sent as many as 4 of our children each year. They would head back to Ohio. Now, Ohio, my first wife who passed away, that was where her parents live. And so they got a chance to go back and be with Grandma and Grandpa Stacy and do all the stuff that they were doing, okay? And so they did that. What was interesting is the first year that they came back. So they were there, I think, about 2 weeks, and they came back. I would always go, and I would pick them up at the airport and drive them home. I got to tell you, the next week to 2 weeks, wow, was that a miserable time. They were horrible. They were awful to deal with. They were disrespectful. They were demanding. It was horrible. So, Kim and I talked a little bit, and so the second year they took off and they went there. And we talked a little bit about what we were going to do. And so we decided that we were going to have the talk with them. Now, it's not the talk you think, okay? It's not that one. We were going to have the talk with them. So here's how it worked. So I showed up to pick them up over at Sky Harbor. And you know how it is. They're all excited. They just got off the airplane. They're talking about what we did this, we ate this, we got to do all this kind of different stuff. We got to stay up late, yada, yada, all the stuff you do. And so all the way until we got to the car, we're having that conversation. We're hearing all about it. So we get in the car, all right? And I turn around and I go, okay, stop. Now, guys, I need you to understand something. While you were gone at Grandma and Grandpa's, nothing changed here. You still have chores. You have to be respectful. You have to go to bed at the appropriate time. You have to eat what we say that you're going to eat. Nothing has changed. So the party is over. Do you understand? And I went to each one. Do you understand? Do you understand? Do you understand? And they're all like, guys, it fixed the problem. Every year I did that. It fixed the problem. You see, guys, the balance of Daddy needed to be there. The balance had to be a part of that. And guys, we have to understand that this is a lifestyle to understand. Let me tell you about this. Here's my family, much of my family at least, and number 14's on the way. And so it's kind of interesting. I want you to imagine for a minute that I'm sitting right in there in that living room, and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there reading a book, and the lights dim. Soft music begins to play. And my 7 children, they file in, they sit down, and they begin to sway and sing. Oh, Father, how great Thou art. You are the provider. And they do all this stuff. Weird, right? So they do all this stuff and say how great I am, and then they leave. Lights come back on, music stops. If for the next 167 hours of the week they are horrid, or they do everything that they're not supposed to do, or they don't follow the principles that we've tried to place in them from God, does that little adventure really matter? Do I really think that they're honoring me? Guys, listen, we have to understand this. We don't come here for an hour and do something that's totally antithetical to our life. We actually are here because we learn how to more effectively live our life to follow God. It's an ongoing thing. I talked about out of the book of Proverbs. You know, in Excel, we've been doing Proverbs for a long, long time, years. But Proverbs chapter 1, verse 7, it actually says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Now, here's what that works. Guys, that's the key to the book of Proverbs. It says that when we put God foundationally first in every area of our life, knowledge follows. We figure out how to do everything in our life. So when we do that in our personal relationships, our dating relationships, when we do that in our marriage, when we do that in the way that we raise our kids, in the way that we are on the job, in the way that we are with our friends, in the way that we are in society, in our country, in our world, the reality is it all follows. God becomes the focus, and it all works. Here's another one. 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 1, it says, "Let us cleanse ourselves from all defilement of flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God." Guys, the idea, holiness just means obeying God. It's just following God. And we have the opportunity to be in awe of God, but also understand that we don't want to mess with our daddy because of how we are living our lives. We don't have to worry about that.